Thank you for staying with us. You're still watching The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. It's time to take the global stories that has made it to the front pages of our national dailies. And joining us this morning is Professor Kamilu Sani Fage. He's from the Dept of Political Science, Bayero University, Kano. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning and thank you.
And Happy New Year to you once again.
Same to you and to our listeners.
Yes. Thank you so much. All right, so let's dive into the papers. This morning we'll begin with The Guardian, and it leads with fresh agitation trails states, poor execution of new minimum wage. So, of course, last year there was the new wage award that was for 70,000 naira, but yet a lot of states are still yet to pay it. This minimum wage went back and forth from about 1 million to 500 and something, 200 and something, and they finally landed at 70,000 naira. Even though 70,000 naira cannot get you a whole lot right now in Nigeria, because of course a bag of rice is way over that, a bag of beans is way over that, vegetable oil, even chicken, it goes going for about 35,000 naira. So imagine a family having to live on 70,000 naira. It's not enough, but we're still seeing that some states are not willing to pay this amount that, you know, it's not even up to $100, not at all. So I don't know, what's your take on this? The fact that now, you know, labor is obviously having some form of agitation because it's something that has already been signed into law. These states are not willing to pay it at the moment.
Yeah, you see, this is part of the impunity that characterized Nigerian governance. If we can recall, the last time we had 30,000 as minimum wage, after the expiration of the period, some states refused to pay. So there is a tendency or likelihood that this is what is going to happen too. A state will be dragging their feet and they will start, you know, when you push them, they will come up with new things. Some have set up committees, some said they are reviewing and so on. But the fact is that the minimum wage is a law now. Had it been, you know, we observe the rule of law, I think this will not have happened. But like I said, it's a rule of impunity. So we'll not be surprised if up to the end of the period, when the new minimum wage is subject to review, some states may not be to pay, may not pay. And the fact is that even if they pay, you know, that 70,000 cannot do anything to a family, even to a single person. If you take it, even on feeding, 70,000 naira is not enough to feed a single person. Take a simple calculation or arithmetics. Even if he's going to take a bread twice in a day, and the bread is more than 1,000. So by the time you do that, it finishes the 70,000. There is also transportation, rate, school fees, medication, and all things in that 70,000. So I think our governors are just being callous not to pay this minimum wage.
So whose job is it now to ensure that they pay? Because if it's been signed into law, obviously the legislative process should work. So whose job is it to ensure, to oversee that all the governors are paying right now?
Yeah, you see, from the state, the legislatures should take the initiative, but I think it is up to the labor. Now, if any state fails, the labor of that state and the national one should take it to court. And if, you know, since it is a law, the court can compel the governor, the culprit governor or governors to comply. And if it doesn't, had it been our system is working properly, if the court compel the governor or direct the governor to do it and he fails, this is an impeachment offense, which had it been the system is working, this thing will not have happened.
Well, I mean, I know that they go to Abuja every month to get some allocation. So sometimes I really wonder what they're doing with those allocations, because if you're not going to pay salaries, if you're not going to pay pensions, if the welfare of the people is not something that is crucial to you, then what are you doing with all of those monies? So I hope that they come to the realization that these people need these monies, because it's important for their daily lives, for them to even have the basic necessities, which, like you've said, is not even enough. So why are you withholding it from the people is the question right now. And I hope that they come to the realization that it would be beneficial to everyone, because if people obviously do not have monies in their hands to be able to provide the basic necessities for them, that's when they can go into criminal activities, because man must chop. They must do something at some point. We're not saying that it's okay to do that, but we're saying that you need to cut it off to ensure that they don't even have those thoughts. So hopefully they come into that realization. So let's look at our power sector. So there's a story here that says Discos pay 137 billion naira to TCN amid persistent grid collapses. So we've seen the grid collapse so many times. I think over 12 times, yes, in the past 1 year, just from January to December, over 12 to 14 times thereabout. But if these schools are paying this amount, why are they not ensuring that, the grid has proper maintenance? Because this is a whole lot of money. I'm sure, of course, it takes a whole lot of money to maintain it. But why is there no proper maintenance with our national grid to ensure that people can enjoy, at least, I know we cannot say stable because that doesn't really happen in Nigeria, but to an extent, we can just have that power supply that we need.
Yeah, you see, it's corruption. It is not a question of how much money has been pumped into the system. It's because some people, try to capitalize to cash on these things. So that is why there is no maintenance. You don't expect something, that has been working for years to continue to be working as it was before. So there is need of that maintenance. But this comes back to the issue that I mentioned, that of, impunity, and the fact that if things like this happen, nobody is held responsible. Okay, had it been there is issue of accountability, and that there is also, when somebody is found wanting in his or her own responsibility, had it been the law take its own course, I think this this is the major is remedy to it. But the fact is that because people do whatever they want and they go scotch-free, so that is why, once there is this money being paid, some people will corner it and they will not put it into use in terms of, maintaining the system, so that at least there will be some. We are not likely to say will be out of the dark, but there is at least an affordable something that we can get. So I think there is need for action to be taken, and you now take punitive measures on those who are found culpable, and that will head up the problem, and that will also bring an end to what we are seeing now.
So on the Daily Trust, it leads with 2 trillion power projects stalled. The writer here says accountability PPP key to reform. That is, according to experts. So public and private partnership is key to ensure that it is reformed. So there's so many projects that have been stalled. In fact, some of them have not been awarded yet. They're yet to start in different parts of the country. But if we want to change our power sector, if we want to ensure that we can give, adequate power to the people, what do you think we need to be doing? Because, of course, the experts have said public and private partnership and accountability. But what are some other things that you think we need to look at, especially in 2025, whereby we need this power, and it's one of the bloodline of our nation?
Yeah, you see, the thing is that this amount of money has been pumped, and this is not the first time. And by the time you take account into it, the 2 trillion naira might have been gone, and yet nothing is done. So that is one thing. I come back to that issue of, the rule of law. People have to be, the government and the people have to take action on those who are found culpable. Secondly, and most importantly, we have to now start looking at to diversify the source of energy. Okay, the way we are now putting too much emphasis on that, putting money on it, and nothing is realized. So we have other sources. Now we have abundant sun in this. Why can't we look at alternative sources of energy and put in the money there so that at least we get what we want? Other people have, other countries have gone beyond this. They are looking at different sources of energies, and they are out of the problem. But here we put all our eggs in one basket, and if we do that, we don't follow it, and there are no laws, to punish those who, embezzle the resources, and then we keep on continuing having this. Remember what happened with Mambila project since the time of Obasanjo, and everything, nothing has happened. Remember with Siemens and other things. These are all things. So it is now a den of corruption. No matter the amount of money that is put in there, we are not going to see any progress. So unless we fight corruption, the major thing, if we want to light, we have to fight corruption in that area and in all other sectors. And secondly, we have to diversify our sources of energy. We shouldn't rely on this sector. So I think if we do that, we are going to have some progress in that sector.
Yeah, so two things you said. Obviously, the first is corruption, which I think you hit spot on, because it doesn't even matter the amount, it's just the level of corruption that is eating so deeply, and this is where we find ourselves. So of course, what we need right now is to ensure that we have leaders that are accountable and they're transparent and they're not stealing public funds. And the second thing you also mentioned was diversifying our source of energy. So a lot of times we're just thinking on the national grid, but I think at this point we need to be thinking of solar. We need to be thinking of other ways to get energy, because other countries are doing that. Why are we not thinking about that? Even though we're still focused on our basic necessities when it comes to roads, the traditional light that we have, petrol price, food, inflation, so many things, but still we need to think outside the box. We need to think progressively to ensure that in every sector we're just trying to do something that is better for the people. All right, so on the Daily Trust is here as well. It says new virus hits China, over 5,000 hospitalized in UK. And of course, it's also on The Guardian as well, that's, talks about this virus that has come. But with this now, right, I mean, what do you think we need to be doing? Because I remember when COVID came and everybody was still joking. I mean, it started in China the year before, in 2019, it started in China, but nobody thought that in 2020, few months down the line, it would take over the world. At this point, if we've seen something like this happen, 5 years prior, what steps do you think we need to be taking right now to ensure that we do not have another pandemic in the world, and especially in Nigeria as well?
Yeah, you see, the major step is proactive. What happened with COVID was, like you said, people were joking that it was far distance place, so they refused to take action. I remember, over the TV and so on, we saw what was happening in Italy, in US, and in so many parts of the world. Before you know it, COVID, shut the whole world, which in history there has never happened. This has never happened when we had the whole world be shut down for such, even for an hour, but talk less of such a long thing. Now with this new virus, I think we have to learn a lesson from COVID. The way we treated it, that was why it spread, it became a pandemic. So I think Nigeria and all other countries should take proactive measures and to prevent it, so that if there is need, any people coming from the area, you should quarantine them, make sure that you check them seriously, have medical experts to make sure that this thing has not been transported. After all, we live in a globalized world. What is happening in one corner of the world, within hours, it can reach at the other end of the world. So I think we need to take preventive measures, and that is, like I said, quarantining it, and now taking measures to make sure that it doesn't spread down to our own area.
I mean, on the Punch, so it leads with new virus, federal government tightens monitoring to quarantine China passengers. And the writer here says, experts demand proactive steps as new virus surges in China ravages children. So, of course, that's what you're saying. We need to quarantine them. Make sure that we're not just taking it as child's play, because these are people's lives, and our lives here matter. We do not want a situation whereby, all the hospitals are filled, people cannot, get medication just because of something that can be prevented. And I think it's important that, we start to find ways to prevent this. And I love the fact that the federal government obviously is already trying to quarantine the Chinese passengers coming in to ensure that, they do not bring the virus into our country. So on The Guardian, there's a story here that I want to take as well. It says, insurgencies, insecurity to end in 2025. The CDF tells personnel, so the Chief of Defense Staff tells personnel that insurgencies and insecurity to end in 2025. Now, this is something that we've heard so many times. It's almost like new year, new me, new year, better me, new year, new Nigeria, things are going to end. But it's never really the case, because, of course, if you think back into Chibok girls, if you think back into so many things that have happened. In fact, last year, there were so many school children that were being kidnapped. Kidnapping was like the order of the day, terrorism. But of course, we're always going to be hopeful. We're always going to be optimistic. But in as much as we're trying, or the CDS is saying this is going to end in 2025, we don't know how that's going to happen, but it's good to say it. In as much as you're saying it, there needs to be an execution plan. What do you think should be the execution plan at this point, if we really want to see that insurgency and insecurity ends in 2025?
Yeah, you see, a lot of things have to be done. The major thing is that we have to tighten, our, intelligence. Because once the intelligence fails, then the security has broken up. Okay, so the major and measure to prevent, insecurity is using intelligence report to head it up before then. So how do we get it? One, there has to be synergy between various security agencies. Sometimes, and in most cases, there could be security report, and the one agency that is not the source of the intelligence report would sit down and refuse to take proactive measures. So there has to be that intelligence report. There has to be synergy between, various agencies of security agencies. And sadly, we have to rejig the security architecture in Nigeria, because you cannot be sending people to go and, fight these things. They are not well paid, they are not motivated, and they are not well equipped, and other things. So we have to take a holistic look at the problem. After all, this problem has persisted for almost 15 years. Like with Boko Haram, is now getting to about 15 years, and still it is continuing. Now there is this issue of banditry and other things. I think about a month ago or two, one newspaper carried, statistics that is so alarming. The number of people that have been abducted, the number of people that have been killed, the amount of money that has been paid in ransom, which is, is so staggering and so alarming and so frightening that we have to take it seriously. And Nigerians are becoming a little bit tired of this new always promises that it is going to end, it is going to end, and it continues like that. And is that actually, if they want to end these things, the big shots in government that are behind these things, they have to take action on them, okay? There are big shots. There are reports that some big people are behind this thing. They are cashing on this insecurity. So I think the government has to look into that. Besides trying to rejig the system, the government also has to look who are behind it, and they have to fight corruption in the system so that we can have this, but it's becoming, like an ending thing. For so many years, Nigeria is facing various crises, and in history, we have never faced such crises at one time. From one section to other, there is no part of this country that is not facing this thing. So I think it's high time for the government to seriously face these issues and to head it up so that once more there will be peace in Nigeria.
Yeah. All right, so let's move over to The Punch. And The Punch has a story where it says, Tinubu, Mba taking Enugu on the path of 21st century development, commissions multiple development projects. And of course, one thing that the president obviously said was because of his background as a successful entrepreneur, that has obviously, positioned him to help build Enugu State. And in fact, he called it a fantastic job. He called on more private moguls to join politics to ensure that, we can start to help build our nation. So I know this is a great fit for, Enugu State, but what lessons do you think other states can learn from this? And how can they even also, harness public and private partnerships to ensure that we're growing and developing our nation? So it's not just one state, Enugu State, or it's not just Lagos State that is thriving, but even other states, because of course the northern governors have complained about the new tax reform bills. But of course, if their states were as thriving as they would want it to be, there would be no complaints at all. So what lessons do you think, other states can learn from this on how to harness and ensure that their states are thriving and developing the way it should be?
Yeah, you see, the major lesson is leadership. And leadership doesn't have to do with somebody is an entrepreneur or what. It is having the will and the vision and as well as the mission to deliver. So leaders should learn a lesson from that. And you learn it, not just, people are not born with that one. Sometimes you learn these things, and so I think what our leaders should do is to learn a lesson from successful government or performing governors. Okay, and they should borrow that one instead of trying to embezzle the resources that they have. They should invest it. They should use it to develop the countries. And the fact is that if we want to develop, we don't have to rely on one sector. Developing the country is not just the responsibility of the national government. It is also the responsibility of the local government. It is also the responsibility of the state government and the federal government. So there has to be this synergy between all the tiers of government, the three tiers of government. And what it will do is, like I say, one word, if they want do it, is there has to be good leadership. And good leadership is that which, accountable, responsive to the people, and transparent, and so on. So that they have the mission that this is what they want. Their mission is to serve, and their vision is to create, to generate development and to better the living condition of their people. So if they learn from that, I think it will be good for Nigeria, and the country will develop very fast.
Yeah, I love the fact that you spoke about the functions of not just the federal government, but the state government, the local government, because it's important that we all put our hands in the plow. So most times we're always waiting for the federal government. Oh, the federal government needs to do the road. Oh, why is Tinubu not doing this? We always like to blame the people at the top, but then we forget our councillors, we forget the local government chairman, we forget the representatives from our own constituents. So at the end of the day, what we need, like you said, leadership, and we need the right type of leaders, the right kind of leaders. So if they're going to come and ensure that each region is being developed and is thriving, of course, by the time you do it, little here, little there, as they say, little drops of water makes a mighty ocean. So before you know it, Nigeria would just be that beautiful, progressive nation that is thriving and flourishing, and that's exactly what we want. We hope that we can see, you know, a nation like that, and come 2025, or 2025 is here already, we can start to see the workings. We can start to even get the dividends for all of the sacrifices that we've made so far. So I'm sure everybody is hoping that 2025 will be a better year for Nigeria, and I'm putting my faith to that as well. Anyways, Professor Kamilu Sani Fage, I want to say thank you so much for coming. It's been a pleasure having you on our show this morning. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, and happy birthday in advance.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you. All right, so I'm speaking with Professor Kamilu Sani Fage. He's from the Department of Political Science, Bayero University, Kano. And we've just been taking the global stories that made it to the front pages of our national dailies. We'll go on a short break now. When we return, we'll be discussing our first hot topic that talks about subsidy gains as Labour criticizes governors over mismanaged allocations. Please stay with us.